Reincarnation, karma, and love. Those are very big topics. Now, some of you may have seen the video that I made that really goes hand in hand with this one, which is all about your higher self. And if you saw that, you would see that I've got a different outfit on. And don't be fooled. I basically recording this one after I recorded that one. So, as Jenny from the block would say, don't be fooled by the rocks that I wear. So in this video, I want to speak about reincarnation, karma, and love. And all three of these subjects, I would say especially reincarnation and karma, like many other things, they have been watered down to a point that is just horribly disgusting. And the reason why I want to make these videos is because so many of us are on the spiritual journey, on the self-development journey. We want to know more, we want to understand more. But, there's these ideas that are put out there, and a lot of those ideas are put out from a point of greed for commercial sort of like gain, and not our commercial gain either. It's the same thing with twin flames. I mean, it's just gross the way twin flames have been sort of like devalued. Everybody's looking for their twin flame. Nobody just goes on a date anymore. Nobody just sees someone anymore. Nobody just goes for coffee anymore. Everybody met their twin flame and lost their twin flame and broke up with their twin flame. And then apparently you go from this twin flame, now you have a new flame, so that was a false flame. Do not fall for that. All right? Twin flames is really people that help you through this journey in life. And it kind of really slots in with reincarnation quite a bit. If any of you would like me to make a video on twin flames or anything else, you can let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do that for you. But in this video, we want to speak about reincarnation, because reincarnation has been simplified and watered down to a point where it's almost like the same tea bag that's been used for like 5 times. And for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Adrian Nelson. I'm a psychic intuitive. I do weekly tarot readings on my channel here. I channel the collective consciousness that call themselves Smile. I'm a regression hypnosis practitioner, Reiki master, crystal healer, psychic development coach, and so forth and so forth. There's a couple of things. If you want to check out some of the coaching that I have available at the moment, you can check some links in the description. Okay? So, reincarnation, we've been put forth that it is this idea that you die and then you just come back and it's all hunky-dory and it's all really, really fine and it's so easy. That's just it, But if you really think of things from a broader global consciousness, it really can't be that simple, So the first thing to bear in mind is that remember that life is a series of basically cause and effect. Newton's third law, for everything that you do, there's an equal and opposite, sort of action and reaction, a possibility basically. And life is just a series of possibilities, okay? So a lot of times we feel that, I'm just going to write this life out. And this is something that happens quite a lot, especially I feel that when people are sometimes new to spirituality and sort of like the whole universe and all that sort of stuff and reincarnation and lives and that sort of thing. So you'd be like, nothing is real, doesn't really matter, I'm just going to be, I don't really care. And if I die, I'll just choose a better life. But the first thing that you want to bear in mind is that the next incarnation of life that you have, the experience possibilities for you in the next incarnation of life is determined by what you do in this life. So this life that you currently have is one of multiple possibilities that was possible for you based on what you did in previous incarnations. Because just because you are in the space that is referred to as life between lives, where you don't basically have a body, or the consciousness is not at that point within any sort of incarnation, human, animal, plant, whatever it is that you're experiencing yourself as. I mean, think about it. You could be experiencing yourself as a planet or as a star. Or as one of my regression hypnosis clients had, when was it, 2 days ago, just so amazing. She was explaining that she was experiencing herself in a previous lifetime as the wind. And then she went to another lifetime and then she chose to become a tree, because first she wanted the experience of what it feels like to blow through the trees and to go wherever, with very much no limitations. And then she wanted to experience what is it like to be a tree and then have the wind blow through you. So a lot of times we have those experiences, and when you look at it from that point of view, you get to understand how, nothing and no one is really above or beneath one another. It's all just experiences. And based on what it is that you are coming into this life for, will often determine what sort of incarnation you choose to have, but also based on what you are doing here, also determines what is possible for you in the next lifetime. All right. If you have been now, okay, let me just back that up again. So yes, when you do past, there is a space of cleansing, of healing, of rebalancing the energy, of releasing a lot of the negative that you've taken on within this life. But the consciousness, of who you are, of what you've done, call it the Akashic records, they are still there. And something that I always say to people, that sometimes they may or may not like, is that if you were a very nice person in this lifetime, then when we channel you after you pass, you're probably going to be very much the same. And if you have been a crappy person in this lifetime, then you might still be a crappy person in the other lifetime. In actual fact, sometimes you may be even more upset because now you don't even have your body, which maybe you didn't even want in this lifetime. And it's important to really understand that so many times we don't like our body, but you chose this body. You were not forced into this body. You chose this lifetime. You chose this body. You came here for very specific reasons. We all have cycles that we need to complete. Maybe you were challenged in a previous lifetime. Maybe you were a man that were really stomping down on women. So now you get the opportunity to experience what that feels like. And in that same, token, as I've been saying in the previous video about higher self, which if you didn't see it, I highly recommend that you go and have a look at it to put this in more in context for you. Maybe you had a certain experience, or let's stay with the man and woman thing. So you were very, you were very stompy sort of on women. You were one of those men that said, women are subservient, they should be in the kitchen, they should be barefoot, they should be pregnant, they should be cooking food and cleaning the house. And a lot of times we don't realize what a mission that is, because a lot of times we expect women to just do stuff, like a stay-at-home mom, for example. Just expect her to prepare the lunches and the food when you come home and the snacks and clean the house and do this and do that and do the shopping and take you to all sorts of sports things and whatever. And then you expect her to do that, during the week, over weekends, during holidays. And we never have stopped to think that this is a lot for this person. They hardly get any time for themselves. So when you might be, and it's no judgment, but maybe in a lifetime you work quite a lot, like that is what women must do, that is their duty as a woman sort of thing. And then the funny thing that I sometimes still, that really sort of like, makes me wonder, is that, and this is, of course, this is no judgment, but, you get men that expect all of those things from women. And then when he comes home and he's in the mood, to get down and dirty, then you expect the woman to just be ready. Whereas she might be tired. Maybe she just wants to be held. Maybe she just for once in a while just want to be appreciated. And if you maybe went to a previous lifetime like this, then you get a different incarnation to let you see that other side of the coin, so that you can realize what you've done, make peace with it, even the scales, so that you can move forward then in a balanced, prosperous sort of way, the yin and the yang. And we all have everything in us, women, men, male, female, we all have all of that within us. So when you as a man, for example, look down upon women, in essence, you are really looking down at yourself, because everything on the outside is just a projection of yourself on the inside. So you create an imbalance, which then has to be rebalanced, before you can move forward, because you can only move forward, progress to the next level if you are balanced. So that's a lot of times where reincarnation comes in. It's about cause and effect. Yes, we have free will and everything, but what is the stage that you're setting up to learn this lesson best? And so let's say, for example, you were having all of that sort of experience, you know, men against the woman sort of thing, which isn't necessarily anybody's fault. Maybe that's just how you've been brought up. Um, Typically always come from fear, really. Um, so let's say you're having that experience in, maybe say today is October the 21st, 2022. So you are passing in this life now. You are passing today. That's the experience that you had. Say maybe you were alive for 50 years and you were born in 1972. So it's 50 years down the line and now you pass. Maybe it's better for you to then learn that lesson and to get it if you maybe go back to the 1800s. So you see where the whole past life thing comes in? So you believe yourself to be in a previous life, which technically speaking you are, but it serves a purpose for you. And that is why when you do past life regression and you go to different lifetimes, you know, what you then sort of rectify in that lifetime then has a consequence on your life going forward. An experience that I had some time ago is I did a regression hypnosis session for a lady, beautiful session. And then there's a psychic that she saw for quite a while, and that psychic, you know, predicted that there's a son that she's going to get, child was coming through. I did a tarot reading for this person sometime prior to this regression hypnosis session. I also saw the child. And then post regression hypnosis session, this child was no longer there. And it became quite a little bit of a thing, actually. But a wonderful learning curve for me, because life is always giving us feedback, you know. And then so I was checking into the collective consciousness Smile that I channel, asking like, you know, Smile, what's going on here? And they explained to me that whilst a child is always seen as this beautiful blessing, some children come in to teach us very difficult lessons. So by the work that this client has done in a past life, it was no longer necessary for that soul to reincarnate into this life. So it wasn't necessary for that lesson. And one thing that I know for sure, if a soul doesn't need to come to Earth, it's not going to do it. It's not going to do it, you know, because Earth is a rough place. But just to let you know that reincarnation is not that sort of like, you know, cut and dry as it's made out to be. There's a lot of consequence involved, you know. In that same token, sometimes we prepare for we make these very long plans, and we often do it in the sleep state, because in the sleep state, we can have this conversation and communication with one another. Again, I speak about that in the previous video, when I speak about your higher self, because your higher self is really just, I can say the extended part of who you are, but then being human is really the extended part of who you are. And you kind of go back to the collective part of who you are. So human is the expansion of it. But you still remain part of the same core, that sort of thing. You know, it's like when you imagine that there's a light that's shining in a room. If you think of your higher self, your all consciousness, your quantum consciousness, the soul, it's like a light that's shining in a room, and it's not shining to the outside. But when you maybe open the window or open a door, that light expresses to the outside. And that is almost like, you can almost call that the analogy of becoming human. It's the same thing that is expressing outwards and forward, but it doesn't really take away from the allness of who you are, and nor actually honestly is it really making it more, because the potential was always there, you know. So the potential really goes big. It's not just here on Earth. And so in that sense, for example, if you're really interested in this, you can maybe read something called Seth Speaks. It's really amazing there. In some of my regression hypnosis sessions that I started to post with the full permission of the clients here on my channel, you get to see some of that. I just want to be very clear when you look at that, because I've had that before with some clients when they look at other things. What you see online is never the full thing. It is edited, you know, because you can't always show everything. And some things are just very, very private also. But with cause and effect, really, sorry, with reincarnation, that is what I meant to say. So you can very easily have the analogy, say, for example, that your grandparents are born, and then your grandparents, and then there's your parents, and then say maybe just before you were born, say, or let's say you were born, so there's your grandparents, you love them very much, you're really connected with one another, there's your parents, and then you were born, you're the third generation, so to speak. So when you really think about it, I always say that human beings are like glorified clones. Because technically speaking, through your parents, through who you are a further expression of your grandparents. And then maybe say you were 10 years old, 15 years old, your grandparents pass. and then going forward you get in a relationship or however the details are, it doesn't obviously have to be that way, but long story short, then you have a child. The child that you have could be a reincarnation of your grandparents who passed. So even though you are the expression going forward, you can also be the same expression continuing. And that happens a lot with reincarnation, where you would maybe reincarnate in a group, what we call a soul family. But also remember then, with the group, you have the protection, because typically you're very together with one another, you live in a big family together, you do things together, you go through school together, you're in the same family, you're in the same friendship group, you live in the same town, house, whatever. You do the same business together. That is often soul family that's reincarnated together, But there's still a lot of freedom in that. Or you can have a very adventurous soul that decides to just go through lifetimes on their own, which is really great, because then you've got more freedom, because you don't have this tight-knit sort of family that you came in with, but then you sometimes don't have all the support, for example. So it can go either way. There's a lot of things to consider, really, when it does come to reincarnation. And another thing that I did mention in the higher self video that I wanted to speak about in this one is the time that the soul opts to connect with the body, with the fetus, the baby in the mother's womb, has quite a big impact on how you experience this life. So, and of course, souls come here for very different reasons. So, for example, myself, I have always known that I have, the moment that fetus was sort of formed, and I have a recollection of that it was, oh, it's ready, let me go. So I, for example, as a soul, wanted to use my consciousness, which is the part experiencing, I wanted to have the whole experience of life. So I wanted to go through the growing experience, that real connection to the mother. And so when you even look at something like numerology or astrology, for example, or human design, which is really, really amazing. And if some of you do look back at some of the regression hypnosis sessions that I did, there's one that I do with somebody called Lisa Kay, and she had that incredible experience with the tree that's communicating. She does human design, and she did a thing, and it's just amazing. But a lot of times when you do these things, people ask you, so when were you born, where were you born, and what's your time of birth? So remember that we are born into a connection, to a collective consciousness, into a being that's already working. Earth, the galaxy, the universe, it's all a living being. And when we take that first breath of air, we connect with it, and that's why I want to know what's your time of birth. But everything also changes quite a lot. With astrology, for example, if you don't know your date of birth, it's better not to give it, or your time of birth, sorry, it's better not to give it, because everything completely changes like every 4 minutes, but you also don't even want to guess within those 4 minutes, because sometimes it can do more bad than good if you do that. You're born into this consciousness being, but if you really think about it, a lot of times we think, I'm having this life because I was born at this time and that time and that time, and if only I wasn't born at that time, if only I was born at a different time. But if you ever consider that maybe you slide into this life, and you choose when you slide into this life for the purpose that you want to serve, your reason for coming here. You are never forced to do anything, A lot of times we feel that we are punished by this life to be here, but not really, okay? So a soul that typically has the experience that I had, sometimes they may change their mind at the last time. So when I was born, I sort of changed my mind. I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. But then I realized the repercussions of me not coming here. So there was the experience, for example, of me, having difficulties at birth. There was an emergent cesarean. I was told that for a couple of minutes I didn't breathe, so I started to have the death experience. So I started to go back. And there's a lot of preparation for us to come into this life and to leave this life. And where a lot of us are very concerned about leaving this life, the most challenging thing to do is actually enter into this life, because you come from the allness and amazingness that you are into this limited experience of life. And a lot of times at this last moment, a soul goes like, fuck this shit, I'm not going to do it. And that's something that I did actually. But then I saw the effects of me doing that. The karma, basically. And so you decide to make a different choice because you understand what you agreed to, and while you never held to it, you understand the repercussions, the karma, the cause and effect that you are creating, not just for others, but also for yourself, by changing your mind. And that's really a lot with karma as well. Karma also, it's not a cut and dry either. Karma is the cause and effect of our lives in this lifetime and in other lifetimes. So just because you have a different body every now and then doesn't mean that you're not just you. You just have different expressions of yourself. So if you take my hair, for example, I'm growing my own hair, which is about this long already, which is, I've got no idea how much that in inches is, but it's about 12 centimeters. I think that's about 3-4 inches, 3.5-4 inches basically. So these are extensions which I'm going to change. I've got this beautiful other ones, just making an example. So, you know, just because I change this from something to something else doesn't mean that I'm not still me. That sort of thing. Just because, like in the previous video, I wore something different to what I'm wearing in this video, but I'm still me. And reincarnation is quite a lot like that. So you've got the karma that still carries on through all of that, which is that spiritual record, the Akashic records of who you are. And your karma, in a way where a lot of people can sometimes think of karma as a bad thing. Your karma is actually sort of like the thing that keeps you on track. And so what OSHO Zen Tarot, for example, which I've got a beautiful course on, and you can check it in the description. OSHO Zen Tarot really, where Rider-Waite Tarot, for example, traditional tarot, with these ones, you know, where they are like a GPS in this lifetime, which I also have a course on, you can check down below. Then there's a free Oracle card course as well if you want to check that out. OSHO Zen Tarot is really focusing on what do I need to do in this lifetime to get out of that cycle of repeated karma, doing the same thing over and over again. So how do you progress to that next level? Which can be very easy, but it can also be very challenging sometimes. So where a lot of people, and I think that's what makes it challenging for people sometimes when they look at OSHO Zen Tarot, you know, they think it's going to be this easy coaching. But it's actually a very challenging coaching and a very mind-opening coaching. Your life is never ever the same after you've done OSHO Zen Tarot. It just isn't. Because you are reminded of broader parts of who you are, of broader possibilities of who you are, and anything, you know, all the karma that we tie up in this life, all the, let's say all the good that you are able to merge into within this life, it has a tremendously positive effect on your next life and the choices that are available for you in your next life. And yes, there are teachers in the in-between, like what we call life between lives, but ultimately what you do in this lifetime and the ties that are sort of still loose in this lifetime is what is determining the options that are available for you in the next lifetime. And whilst everything is just infinite possibility, you know, it's almost like if you think of it in simplified terms. Let's say you always wanted to have a car, but you always wanted to have a car that you drive, but you're always too nervous to drive. So you never learned how to drive. And so then you go into the next lifetime and you say, I might like have a car, but I don't want something simple. I want like a Ferrari, you know, I want or Lamborghini or something like that, something really smashy. And I want to like all flashy and whatever, you know. And I want to have the nice sort of like chrome, sort of like those things that you put on your wheels. And whatever tinted windows and it like the snazzier sort of like sound system and free flow system and whatever you light it, go like boom, you know, which is all fair and well. You can have that, but what are your possibilities for your next lifetime? If your possibilities are maybe limited to, say, living in a space where there's a lot of old or sickly people living, or young kids maybe in a more suburban sort of area, those people are going to get very upset with you when you've got like a car going vroom vroom at 5 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, you know. And maybe for some karmic reasons those are your options available. So when that is your purpose, and this is what is really making this channeling that I do so amazing, and sort of like regression hypnosis so amazing. So these are your goals. What is blocking your goals? You know, what is sort of making it challenging for you to get there? And when you get, okay, so this is what I'm tying. So in the next lifetime, you can then maybe go into an area where there's more people that are in attunement with that, you know. And with the driving thing, a lot of times we say, I want this and I want that and I want that. And we do the same thing with law of attraction manifestation. We manifest things and we manifest ourselves into a tight spot. And so when you do things like psychic development, for example, you get to understand how to manifest in a way that serves your highest good, what I call conscious living. You know, and I call myself a conscious living practitioner because it's about having a conscious relationship with life and always being open to learn more because you never know everything. All right. So then let's say you go into this new life and you want to have this car, but you can't drive. It's going to be bad for you. You're probably going to make an accident. You know what I'm saying? And then so there is just a bit of karma basically. And then at the end, I want to touch on love. Now we are, by our core nature, by our core being, we are an expression of love. We are an extension of love. But calling you an extension is almost like you might be the part that goes in a different direction, which technically speaking you are. But even though you go into all different tangents and directions, you remain part of the core. You know, it's like just because you will leaf on a tree doesn't mean that you're not part of the tree. You have the individual experience of a leaf, but you're part of the leaf, you're part of the branch, you're part of the tree. And that is the essence of love, the core of love, the truth of who we are. So you can be in denial about who you are, and you can maybe not have the most balanced relationship with who you are, but it doesn't change the fact that you still are who you are, which is love. I really hope this helps you, and I really hope that this is of value to you. Comments are very, very welcome, and if there's maybe anything else that you'd like me to speak about, make a video about, do let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do that for you. From my heart, namaste, love and light.